Hello YouTube, what is going on? It is Epic Big Bird and I have another Rome 2 Total War commentary to do for you today. This was a large funds battle, and in this battle I have chosen one of the nomadic tribes. I'm not sure exactly how to say their name, but I believe it's Massagetae or something like that. Um, but I chose the faction that came from basically the areas of the steppe in Mongolia. So these guys are basically what I believe is Genghis Khan's warriors that I have chosen today. And my ally has chosen Rome. And we are going up against a combined force of Roman and Epiros forces. So right off the bat, you can see here, I'm going to engage in skirmishing tactics here. I'm going to show my opponent a front of heavy horse archers to his front, and then try and flank him with all of my armored horse archers onto my opponent's left flank. And you can see here that shift is occurring right now. You can see I'm pulling my heavy cav more center, and then my archers are, like I said, heading down the flanks. See here we're getting our first shots into his cavalry, and it looks like his cavalry consists of 3 Praetorian cabs and an auxiliary cab. So the Praetorian cabs are going to be hard to crack, but with all of our shock cab and supporting horse archers, it really shouldn't be a problem. Over here, we're also supporting my allies' left flank with 4 more of my, 3 steppe noble lancers and 1 of my socket cataphracts. So you can see over here, I've baited my opponent into an engagement. And you can see we will gladly accept a charge here. Unfortunately, we do blob up about 3 or 4 of our units, all on one unit, and my general's unit takes a pretty good charge from his Praetorians. But you can see here, we've already routed these auxiliary cab due to that heavy charge from those steppe noble lancers. And my general is in a pretty bad engagement with Praetorian cab right now, but as soon as we wrap up this auxiliary cab, those Praetorians are going to be in pretty rough shape. You can see over here, my ally splits off a Triarii to try and ward off my armored horse archers, and I'm just going to counter that with superior microing skills here. You can see here, I'm just going to run off my horse archers, and I'm going to begin to split them up here. You can see here his auxiliary cav break here, and now we have 3 more shock cav that we can use at our disposal. We're going to use one of them to charge these Triarii while they're out of formation, and then the other 2 we are going to pull out of the engagement and then recharge back into these Praetorian cav to get a charge bonus. You can see here we got about 5 kills with those Triarii, with that Triarii charge, and we lost about 5 horses on the Triarii charge, and we only killed about 2 or 3 of them, so it wasn't exactly very cost effective, but whatever. Now you can see here I almost commit these steppe noble lancers a little early and charge them into the back of my general, but you can see here I wheel off, and I'm going to wait till a more opportune flank charge. Over here you can see Epiros has engaged my ally in a cavalry battle with his own Hellenic Royal Guard cav. That's going to be a tough fight for them to fight against Praetorian cav by themselves. Along with the support of my other heavy shock cav, Epiros is pretty much they're in not a very good position right now. You can see there I get a very nice envelop with my lancers, and Epiros is going to be in a tough spot after this. Now you can see here we're making progress on his Praetorian cav. We just routed his second unit there, and these guys are down to 16 men. You can see here my allies again trying to ward me off with his Triarii. Not really going to let that happen. We have the mobility, so my archers are just going to shoot and run. And you can see here he's chasing one of these units, so I'm going to split one of them off, and then the other one is going to get split off. And now we have all 3 of these units are going to be shooting this Triarii unit in the rear, which is what we want. Over here you can see the engagement with the Epiros cavalry is going very well. Over here we decide to charge his Praetorian Guard cav with 2 of our shock cav over here, and we get about 10 to 12 kills on that charge, which is pretty good. And we also managed to pull off these Praetorian guards from the rest of his army, and that's going to make them very vulnerable and isolated now. So you can see there we get a pretty nice charge into the flank of that Praetorian Guard while it's not ready and moving. So they're going to be in a pretty bad spot for fighting. Now you can also see here when he moved those Praetorian Guards, he left his allies' archers completely wide open. I'm going to split off these noble lancers and I'm going to try and make a move for those. You see here my ally sees that and he's going to respond. I'm going to continue the charge and I'm going to commit these lancers into the fight. My reasoning behind this was now that I had these horse units behind my opponent's line, he would be forced to make a move with these pikes. However, my ally decides not to do that, and he's just gonna hold his pike wall and then try and reinforce his general with these spears. So I'm just gonna pretty much sacrifice these step noble lancers, and I'm gonna do as much damage to that general as I can while I can. Over here you can see he's splitting off another Praetorian Guard to try and chase down my horses, and over here you can see we've wrapped up Epiros' cavalry. So now, in the very first decisive moments of the game, me and my ally have taken over complete mobility of the field. And now we are going to work on his archers. I'll give you guys an overhead view real quick. You can see here, already it looks like our opponents are trying to form somewhat of a defensive square. Myself and my ally now have cavalry in the middle here, and that's not going to be very good for them at all. But you can see here, our opponent is reinforcing the middle with Triarii, which is going to be a good fight for them against those cav units. But you can see here we are collapsing in on this box, and we're just trying to finish up these Praetorian Guard over here that got caught up with the Epiros cavalry engagement. Over here my ally is advancing his legionary cohorts down the flanks. But you can see here how unorganized the Roman opponent is right now. His Praetorian Guard are out of formation and in positions where they can't really support anybody. I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to pretty much get a very nice envelop on these Praetorian Guard and prevent them from escaping this fight. Now, if I were Epiros, I would have mobilized these pikemen to help engage these cavalry, but instead you can see Epiros is going to cut his losses with his ally, and he's going to start reforming his pikes. And at this point, me and my ally kind of figured he was going to form a pike box, but there's nothing really we can do about that at this point. He's got a pretty solid front of pikes pretty much wherever we go. Over here he has Triarii, so we can't really strike at his pike box right now, and we're going to have to let him form it. So I pulled back with my cavalry, and at this point in the battle, my army is pretty much useless. I'm going to have to rely on my ally now to break this pike box. So we will see if we can accomplish that feat. I was trying to help my ally out, and I was giving him tactics that we had talked about in the previous episodes with defeating pike boxes. I told him to attack these corners, and we will see if that was successful. Take another look at the overhead map, and you can see we have a really nice envelop of my opponent right now. He's not really going anywhere. He has these Cretans out here, and I'm going to mobilize some of my armored horse archers to deal with them shortly. Our Roman opponent still has some Triarii running around out here that we're still dealing with. We want to make sure that all of these isolated units are taken care of before we assault this pike box. It's just smart to tie up your loose ends. You never know what can happen. Now you can see I mobilized my horse archers to deal with those Cretans. And here I'm going to charge in my horse archers to smash these pikes from behind. And then you can see they rout. Now we have Triarii to our rear, so I'm going to pull out with these cav, let my allies Triarii engage them, and then I'm going to cycle back around for another cav charge. Over here you can see our horses have gotten into these archers. They're making short work of them. Okay, and now we have basically wrapped up everything on the outside of this pike box. You see here my ally is committing his first sets of infantry to the fight, and you can see he's doing pretty much what I asked him to do. He's attacking the corners, and this is going to be pretty smart. You can see his legionaries are taking casualties as they're advancing, but you can see they've closed the gap between these pikemen unit, and they are now engaging basically with sword on sword, which is a good engagement for those legionnaires. You can see they're making progress into this into these pikemen units. They're slowly cutting their way into this pike box. So yeah, at this stage in the battle, I'm just going to position my cavalry all along the sides of these pike box and wait for the pikes to turn in on themselves so I can get good cav charges into the rears. But you can see here my ally manages to push through with his legionary cohorts, and this is going to finally force our Epiros opponent to reform his lines. Over here you can see these pikemen are reforming, and my ally is going to take advantage of that while they're moving and charging his legions. That's going to be a good move because his pikemen are going to be out of formation. You can see there I'm going to meet that movement, or my allies move with a shock cav charge, and that's going to completely rout those pikes. And you can see here, at this point of the battle, we have totally invaded the pike box. We are inside with full force, and at this point in the battle, it's pretty much over for Epiros. So we are just gonna wrap up this battle, and I can show you guys battle statistics. So what I think went well in this battle for me, and what I think didn't go so well for my opponent in this battle was, right off the bat, I kind of knew exactly what I needed to do to succeed in this battle, and that was I was going to use my cavalry to remove my opponent's cavalry to gain the mobility edge so we could totally envelop my opponent, and that's what I did, as you can see. My opponent probably should have been a little bit more wary with his cavalry. He should have held them back and used them more defensively. That's kind of what you want to do against skirmish armies. You don't want to let your army get isolated, which is what I basically did in that battle. We focused on isolated units and completely destroyed them. So, yes, thank you so much for watching my video, guys. I really hope you learned something. I hope you can apply it to your own game plan. This has been Epic Big Bird. Have a nice day.